In the early 20th century, the Kaimuki Kasha House was a bustling and vibrant establishment, known for its elegant decor and welcoming atmosphere. It was a popular gathering spot for locals, but it soon fell into obscurity. The rumors began when the building was abruptly abandoned in the 1930s. People spoke of the house being used for mysterious and occult purposes, though concrete evidence was scarce. The most chilling story is linked to a series of strange occurrences reported in the late 1940s. After its abandonment, the house remained a decrepit, shadowy figure on the edge of Kaimuki. People began to claim that they saw flickering lights and heard haunting sounds coming from the property at night, despite it being long deserted. Some said they saw figures moving behind broken windows, but when they went to investigate, no one was ever there. The most unsettling account comes from a group of young locals who decided to explore the house in the early 1950s. They reported hearing a deep, mournful wail that seemed to echo through the empty halls. One of the boys, who was particularly brave, ventured into the basement alone. He later described seeing a dark, shadowy figure with glowing eyes, standing in the corner of the room. Terrified, he fled, and the group hastily left the house. Days later, the same boy was found in a state of utter distress. He claimed to have been followed by the shadowy figure, which seemed to manifest in his nightmares and even during waking hours. The locals believed that the house had somehow cursed him, and he was never the same afterward. His life fell into ruin, and he eventually left Honolulu, never to return. Over the years, the Kaimuki Kasha House has continued to intrigue and terrify. Local ghost hunters have reported strange electronic voice phenomena and unexplained temperature drops when visiting the site. Some claim that the malevolent spirit of the shadowy figure still lingers, waiting for the next curious soul to cross its path. Though the building has since been demolished, the stories of the Kaimuki Kasha House live on. For those who hear the tale, it serves as a haunting reminder of the dark and mysterious energies that may still linger in forgotten corners of the world. After the Kaimuki Kasha House was torn down in the early 1960s, the site lay vacant for years, a patch of empty land that became overgrown with weeds and debris. Despite the absence of the physical structure, the supernatural reputation of the site persisted. Locals often recounted how the eerie feelings and strange occurrences from the old house seemed to linger even in the empty lot. In the mid-1970s, a new construction project began on the site. Developers planned to build a modern apartment complex, but their work was fraught with difficulties. Strange incidents began to plague the construction crew. Equipment would malfunction inexplicably. Workers reported feeling as though they were being watched, and some even claimed to hear faint cries or whispers in the dead of night. The construction site quickly became known as one of the most cursed projects in Honolulu. One night, the foreman of the site, a man named Richard, stayed late to oversee some critical work. As he walked through the area, he noticed that his breath was visible in the surprisingly cold air, even though the temperature was well above freezing. He dismissed it as a draft, but soon he began to feel an oppressive presence, as though someone or something was closely observing him. As he turned a corner, he saw a dark, shadowy figure in the distance, standing motionless under a street lamp. He blinked and the figure vanished. Trembling, he reported the sighting to his colleagues the next morning. The apparition wasn't the only strange occurrence. Several workers experienced disturbing dreams while sleeping in nearby accommodations. These dreams were always the same. They would find themselves wandering through an endless, dimly lit corridor with broken windows and strange noises. The dreams would end with a shadowy figure emerging from the darkness, causing them to wake in terror. The project was ultimately abandoned after several workers suffered from severe anxiety and insomnia. The developers cited unforeseen difficulties and walked away from the site. Over time, the land was left fallow once again, becoming an overgrown lot that attracted little attention. In the 1980s, a local historian named Sarah decided to investigate the site's past. She was intrigued by the stories she had heard and sought to uncover any historical records that might shed light on the true nature of the Kaimuki Kasha House. During her research, she discovered that the house had been the site of several unsettling events, including the mysterious disappearance of a few locals in the 1920s, which had never been adequately explained. Sarah's investigation led her to a local librarian who had old, faded newspapers detailing the house's history. Among the articles was a disturbing account of a series of unsolved disappearances and a local legend about a ritualistic cult that allegedly used the house for dark ceremonies. These accounts, combined with the strange experiences of the construction workers and the mysterious fate of the boy from the 1950s, painted a picture of a place that had been cursed or haunted long before it was demolished. In the late 1990s, Sarah's findings were published in a local history journal. Her work reignited interest in the Kaimuki Kasha House, attracting paranormal enthusiasts and curiosity seekers. Some claimed that the spirits tied to the old house had never truly left, and they continued to influence the land where it once stood. Today, the Kaimuki Kasha House remains a local legend, a haunting reminder of the dark stories that can linger long after the physical manifestations of their origins have disappeared. The site, now an innocuous part of the cityscape, serves as a chilling testament to the belief that some histories and hauntings are never fully erased. In the early 2000s, a group of amateur paranormal investigators, inspired by Sarah's published findings, decided to make the former site of the Kaimuki Kasha House their next project. They were a mix of seasoned ghost hunters and enthusiastic newcomers, eager to uncover the truth behind the unsettling stories. The team set up their equipment on the overgrown lot, determined to document any lingering supernatural activity. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, the investigators set up infrared cameras, EMF meters, and audio recording devices. The air was thick with humidity, and the remnants of the old Kaimuki Kasha House's aura seemed to hang like a ghostly fog. The team was particularly keen on capturing evidence of the shadowy figure that had haunted the construction workers decades earlier. As the night progressed, the investigators began to experience odd phenomena. The EMF meters spiked inexplicably in certain areas of the lot, and their audio recordings picked up faint, disembodied whispers that seemed to come from nowhere. One of the investigators, Lisa, a medium who had joined the team, reported feeling a cold presence around her, a sensation that intensified as she approached a specific corner of the site. Lisa attempted to communicate with whatever might be lingering there, using a spirit box, a device that scans radio frequencies to capture potential spirit voices. As she spoke, she was met with static and garbled voices. But then a clear, chilling message came through. "I'm still here." Her face went pale, and she struggled to maintain composure as she relayed the message to the team. In the early hours of the morning, as the investigators were about to wrap up their session, something extraordinary happened. The temperature on the lot plumbed dramatically. Frost began to form on the edges of their equipment, an unusual occurrence given the tropical climate. The team noticed a figure moving in the distance, though the cameras captured only shadows and distorted shapes. The team's lead investigator, Mark, decided to confront the figure. As he approached the area, he found himself engulfed in a dense, oppressive darkness that seemed to swallow all light and sound. Mark felt a cold, vice-like grip on his arm, causing him to stumble back in terror. The investigators rushed to his aid, but the grip vanished as suddenly as it had appeared. Mark's face was a mask of fear. He recounted feeling as though he had been pulled into a void, where the shadowy figure's glowing eyes had bored into his very soul. The team decided to leave the site, their investigation cut short by the unnerving events. In the days that followed, they reviewed their recordings and found disturbing evidence. Voices pleading for help, sounds of footsteps, and an ominous presence that seemed to respond to their inquiries. The findings were shared in a documentary that aired on local television, further fueling public fascination with the Kaimuki Kasha House's haunted legacy. Meanwhile, the site of the old Kaimuki Kasha House remained vacant, its overgrown state a stark reminder of the legends it harbored. Some locals believe that the spirits of the house still cling to the land, unable or unwilling to move on. Stories continued to circulate about strange occurrences in the area, from inexplicable cold spots to fleeting glimpses of shadowy figures. In a final twist to the saga, an anonymous letter appeared at the local historical society in 2023. It was from a writer who claimed to be a descendant of the original owners of the Kaimuki Kasha House. The letter described an old journal detailing a family curse tied to the house, suggesting that malevolent forces had been intentionally summoned through rituals performed there. The writer hinted at unfinished business and warned that the spirits would remain restless until the house's dark history was fully understood and acknowledged. Whether the letter was genuine or a cleverly crafted piece of fiction remains a mystery, but it added another layer to the ever-expanding legend of the Kaimuki Kasha House. The site, now a forgotten lot once again, continues to be a subject of speculation and ghostly folklore, embodying the idea that some stories and hauntings refuse to be laid to rest, echoing through time and leaving their mark on those who dare to uncover them. The year 2014 brought renewed interest in the Kaimuki Kasha House as new generations of researchers and thrill-seekers sought to unearth more about its mysterious past. Fueled by the sensationalism of the recent documentary and the cryptic letter from the alleged descendant, the site became a focal point for paranormal enthusiasts and urban explorers. A prominent ghost hunting team, HauntQuest, known for their successful investigations into notorious haunted locations, decided to tackle the Kaimuki Kasha House legend head-on. Their leader, David, a seasoned investigator with a reputation for skepticism, approached the case with a mix of curiosity and caution. His team included Sarah, a tech specialist, and James, a historian with a deep interest in occult practices. They began their investigation by setting up high-definition cameras, temperature sensors, and an array of modern ghost hunting equipment. This time, however, they took a more scientific approach, aiming to provide solid evidence rather than relying solely on anecdotal accounts. Their investigation started with a thorough historical research phase. James delved into old archives, looking for any records or documents that could confirm or debunk the various legends. His research revealed more about the mysterious disappearances linked to the house. Some records hinted at secret meetings and unusual rituals, but much of the information was inconclusive. One evening, as the team set up their equipment, Sarah discovered something troubling. While reviewing old blueprints of the Kaimuki Kasha House, she found a hidden basement level that had not been documented before. The discovery was particularly alarming because it seemed to align with some of the earlier reports about occult practices. The team decided to explore this previously unknown area. As they descended into the basement, they encountered a thick, suffocating darkness and an oppressive atmosphere. The walls were covered in strange symbols and what appeared to be faded, cryptic writings. In the center of the room, they found a makeshift altar, still stained with what looked like old, dried blood. David, maintaining his skeptical demeanor, initially dismissed the altar as a mere relic of old, misguided rituals. However, as the team conducted their investigation, they began to experience inexplicable phenomena. The temperature dropped sharply, and electronic devices started to malfunction. One of the cameras captured a fleeting shadow moving across the basement, disappearing as quickly as it appeared. As the investigation continued, the team set up a spirit box to communicate with any entities that might be present. The device picked up a series of fragmented, disturbing messages. One voice repeatedly spoke of unfinished business and endless waiting. The messages seemed to corroborate the theory that whatever had once been in the Kaimuki Kasha House was deeply troubled and restless. Late into the night, David and Sarah ventured deeper into the basement, hoping to uncover more clues. As they approached the altar, David felt an icy chill and heard a low, mournful wail. The sound seemed to come from all directions, and both investigators felt an overwhelming sense of dread. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and the room was plunged into darkness. David and Sarah fumbled for their flashlights, and when the light finally returned, they saw a dark figure standing in front of the altar. It had the vague, shifting shape of a person but with glowing, hollow eyes. The apparition seemed to be reaching out, as if trying to communicate or perhaps even warn them. Terrified, Sarah tried to use the spirit box to ask questions, but the figure only seemed to intensify the oppressive atmosphere. David, now deeply unnerved, decided it was time to leave. They quickly gathered their equipment and exited the basement, their earlier skepticism now replaced with a palpable sense of fear. The footage and audio recordings from the investigation were analyzed extensively. While some data could be explained away by technical issues, the team could not dismiss the disturbing encounters they had experienced. The documentary they produced was more compelling than they had anticipated, presenting the Kaimuki Kasha House as a truly enigmatic and potentially malevolent site. Local lore about the Kaimuki Kasha House continued to grow. Some locals believed the spirits of the house had been disturbed by the investigators and that the haunting would only intensify. Others felt that the house's dark history was finally being brought to light, potentially offering a chance for resolution. The lot where the Kaimuki Kasha House once stood remains a silent testament to the enduring mysteries of the past. New stories and legends continue to emerge, keeping the ghostly whispers of the Kaimuki Kasha House alive in the collective imagination. For those who hear the tale or visit the site, it serves as a chilling reminder of the unknown and the dark forces that may still linger, waiting for the right moment to be discovered, or perhaps to be finally laid to rest. Don't forget to subscribe and like if you liked this story. The Kaimuki Kasha House continued to captivate the imagination of locals and paranormal enthusiasts alike. As the years rolled on, the site's legend became a local touchstone, an enigmatic story passed down through generations. But the tale took an unexpected turn in 2020, when an ambitious tech entrepreneur named Eva Monroe decided to transform the cursed lot into a cutting-edge, high-tech innovation hub. Eva Monroe, intrigued by the area's history and seeking to revitalize the land, envisioned a state-of-the-art facility for startups and tech innovators. Despite the warnings from locals about the haunting and the strange occurrences reported by previous investigators, Eva was determined to create something positive and groundbreaking on the site. Work began, and the development proceeded smoothly, until it reached the very spot where the Kaimuki Kasha House's hidden basement had been located. As construction crews dug deeper, they unearthed a series of strange artifacts. Old, decayed objects, and remnants of the disturbing symbols and ritualistic items previously found by the paranormal investigators. The discovery reignited interest in the site, and many began to wonder if the building of the new tech hub would disturb the dark energies rumored to linger there. Unperturbed by the warnings, Eva held a launch party for the new innovation hub in early 2028. The event was a grand affair, attended by prominent figures from the tech world and local dignitaries. As night fell, the partygoers began to notice a series of odd occurrences. The lights flickered, and some guests experienced sudden drops in temperature. Eva herself experienced something more unsettling. While taking a moment to review the event from her office, she saw a shadow move across the glass walls of her high-rise. When she turned around, she felt an icy chill and heard the faint sound of a mournful wail. Determined to not let these occurrences ruin her celebration, Eva dismissed it as the stress of the grand opening. A few days after the launch, strange things began happening on a regular basis. Employees reported seeing shadowy figures out of the corner of their eyes, and electronic devices malfunctioned inexplicably. Whispers of the old hauntings returned, and many wondered if the tech hub was somehow stirring up the energies that had long been associated with the Kaimuki Kasha House. Eva, initially dismissive, became increasingly concerned as the disturbances grew more frequent and intense. The situation came to a head when a particularly ambitious project, a highly sensitive AI system, began producing inexplicable errors and cryptic messages that seemed to reference the old rituals of the Kaimuki Kasha House. Desperate to understand what was happening, Eva reached out to the original paranormal investigators from the HauntQuest team. David, now a respected figure in the field, agreed to return with his team to help. They set up their equipment once again, this time with the added challenge of working within a modern, bustling environment. During their investigation, the team found that the disturbances seemed to be concentrated in specific areas of the building, particularly where the old basement had been located. The EMF meters detected unusual spikes, and their spirit box picked up unsettling voices, echoing phrases like unfinished and eternal. One evening, as David and his team explored the site, they discovered that the AI system had inexplicably connected to an old database file they had not seen before. The file contained detailed accounts of occult practices and cryptic references to entities that seemed to parallel the earlier accounts of the Kaimuki Kasha House. It was as if the data had been inserted intentionally, suggesting a disturbing connection between the new technology and the old legends. The culmination of the investigation led David and Eva to a startling revelation. The disturbances were not simply supernatural, but were somehow linked to the new technology interacting with the old energies. The AI system, designed to learn and adapt, had somehow become a conduit for the restless spirits or forces associated with the Kaimuki Kasha House. In a dramatic conclusion, the HauntQuest team conducted a cleansing ritual, combining modern technology with traditional methods to address the old energies. They hoped this would appease any lingering spirits and restore balance to the site. The Innovation Hub continued to operate after the cleansing ritual, with fewer reported disturbances. However, the story of the Kaimuki Kasha House remained a popular subject of local legend and a cautionary tale about the intersection of technology and the unknown. Eva Monroe's project ultimately became a success, but the Kaimuki Kasha House's legacy was woven into the fabric of the building's history. Visitors and employees occasionally shared their own strange experiences, keeping the story alive. The site, now a blend of cutting-edge technology and historical mystery, stands as a testament to the idea that some places are marked by more than just physical structures. They are imbued with stories, energies, and legacies that refuse to be forgotten. Don't forget to subscribe and like if you liked this story.